Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. My guest today is Darcy MacClaren, who is new CRO, Global CRO for SAP's digital supply chain, and looking hear more about both that role for her as well as her leadership. So, Darcy, first of all, just thanks for making time for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Karen. I just really enjoy watching your podcast.
Great. As I was saying to you before we got started, it's just so much fun, really, to talk to interesting people, and I learn so much. And then, of course, the people that are here with us live, as well as we'll stream afterwards, have a chance to learn it too. It's sort of a master class, if you will, in bite-sized portions. It's pretty wonderful.
Right?
So first, let me just congratulate you on your new role as Global Chief Revenue Officer for Supply Chain at SAP. I can only begin to imagine the breadth of what that role is. Could you talk a bit about the role and then your vision for the new role?
Of course. So let me just start by saying the role of Chief Revenue Officer for Digital Supply Chain for SAP is absolutely, this was my goal, right? This is what I aspired to be ever since I was in
It's great.
undergrad. I wanted this type of role. So I finally have arrived after, 25 plus years in the industry. So what it's all about, I'm responsible for really the go to market for the supply chain products at SAP, making sure we have the right products, solutions, and go to market in readying our field organizations to work with our customers to help transform their supply chain. I work in conjunction, what we call three in the box. I have an engineering end that develops a product, a solution and marketing group that really determines what's in the product and the marketing for it. And then I
Mhm.
represent the chief revenue officer. And the three of us work together as a team to bring these solutions to life with our customers. And I do that globally within SAP. So that is
Yeah.
the role that I have. And I take it very seriously because I personally, feel responsible to really work with our customers to help them transform their supply chain to be risk resilient, agile, and sustainable. That's a big challenge that companies are struggling with.
Absolutely. Wow, so many threads there I want to pull. First of all, congratulations on reaching a career goal. I talked to so many people who are like, well, I really didn't know quite where I wanted to go. I just kept, following interesting things where you're like focused.
I want.
So I love this that you were able to do that, especially on something supply chain, which frankly I think most people didn't think about until the supply chain got really broken during the pandemic. So how wonderful that you picked out
That's
something that's so
correct.
important and yet yeah.
Now everybody's familiar with it. Before it was like, what do you do? But
Yeah.
now it's top of mind for heads of company, but also heads of state because they have
Yeah.
to be concerned about risk, being risk resilient in their own countries.
Yeah. It's great. Well, let's pull on that thread a little bit. I wanted to ask you, I mean, clearly this is a dynamic and evolving sector, but there are some pretty key challenges and opportunities in this industry. And you mentioned some of the challenges. But I think this role of risk management is one that it would be interesting to spend a little more time on, as well as sort of any big opportunities that you see.
Sure. What companies are doing now is previously, and let's say pre-COVID, it was all about cost efficiency, cost and
Mm-hmm.
efficiency. And that all changed because single sourcing may have been the right thing to do from a cost perspective, but from a disruption perspective, it was horrific for a lot of organizations. And now what we recognize is that disruptions have always been there, but now they're more frequent and they
Mm-hmm.
have a much, much bigger impact on the supply chain. So this whole concept of risk proofing your supply chain has what folks have been really focused on. I mean, we have one that's, just came up over the weekend
Mm-hmm.
regarding what's going on, correct?
Sadly.
Exactly. So now what it's all about is really understanding your business, right? And what are the key constraints that you need in order to operate, putting those in. And then the risk proofing is making sure that you have an understanding and the ability to flex and the also the ability to take information in
Mm-hmm.
as it's occurring, and do kind of probabilistic supply chain management to get ready when you need to do it. So it's a different way of looking at it to make sure
Mhm.
you're risk proofing, having alternative sources of manufacturing, having alternative suppliers, transportation, and looking at it so that when you need to use them, first of all, you know and can anticipate when you need them, and you have the ability to flex. And that's where supply chains have really become more risk associated and also resilient so that they can quickly react to what they don't know, but they know they will have disruption.
Yeah. You
Change.
mentioned risk, agility, and sustainability, if my notes are right, a few minutes ago. And I mean, I think this is key to life, right? But certainly to business that we can't maximize for like any one thing in business and expect to be long-term successful, right? So we overemphasize or maximize low cost, and instead we should be optimizing for the whole. So optimizing for risk, for agility, and sustainability includes the cost effectiveness. But I think for the long term, it's not good business to overemphasize any one of those, right?
That's correct. Now the new one that has been very seriously added. It was always kind of a tagline previously, this concept of sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
Now what has happened is, well, first of all, there's a lot of statutory things regarding
Mm.
recording and reporting on sustainability, but the more important part is we need to act on it. And in the supply chain, which controls over 72% of the carbon footprint, the onus is on supply chain practitioners to try to reduce that. So now,
Mm-hmm.
not only is it statutory, now what companies realize, well, number one, it's the right thing to do if you're a global citizen. Your customers want to be sustainable and they will pay more for sustainability, and your employees want you to be sustainable and they are happy. So now companies are really trying to bring it in, whether it's designing and formulating their products, making sure they have vendors that are sustainable, how they manufacture it. Are they manufacturing it to reduce carbon footprint? All the way through packaging, delivering. Are they doing,
Mm-hmm.
where packaging is recyclable? And that whole concept of the circular economy is becoming
Mm-hmm.
a reality, and it can lead to the bottom line. It can lead to uh, employee satisfaction. So now it is embedded into every part of the supply chain, which is so important.
Completely agree. I know this is core to how SAP runs its business internally, in part due to a couple of other interviews that I've done, including with Daniel Smith, who's your Chief Sustainability Officer, who I just learned so much in our conversation. I'm wondering, maybe you could give an example of a client customer that you've helped with this.
Well, quite frankly, we are working with all our customers on the whole
Mm.
concept of sustainability in all sorts of different areas, right? As far as from a manufacturing standpoint, in working and making sure we're measuring them. We have
Mhm.
several clients in that area. We're also working on the formulation end. And what you'll see with our Ariba and collaboration capability and
Mhm.
our ability to rate customers and suppliers to make sure that they're doing it in a sustainable way. So quite frankly, Karen, it's across
It's embedded.
customer base, yes, in all areas from sourcing products to manufacturing the products to transporting the products. Everybody has that sustainability. And then our sustainability, our green ledger, which we just introduced,
Mhm.
another area where we're positioning that to our customers. So I would say in every vertical, from chemical to consumer to life science, we're working with organizations. So I hate to call one out because we have so many that we're working with. It's really
Yeah.
pretty exciting that it's a core part of their business.
Yeah. Would you expand on the Green Ledger a little bit? Got introduced to that. I was at Sapphire in Orlando earlier this year, which was quite an experience. But I maybe for people who aren't so familiar, if you could just spend a minute or so on what is the Green Ledger?
Yeah, the green ledger is an area where we're helping organizations really monitor and keep track of sustainability within their organization. right, from the footprint that they have, bringing it to the bottom line. And so that we actually package some solutions together, which we call the Green Ledger, right? And there's an organization that specializes in this area.
Yeah.
So, and of course, it's quite top of mind of everybody to keep track of a specific organization and what you're doing in this area of sustainability, and that's what we call the Green Ledger.
Yeah. Terrific. So to circle back to something we touched on but didn't go very deep in earlier, what's your vision for your new role? Do you have any sort of visions, like overarching goals for? Uh,
Oh yeah,
I'm
oh
sure you
yeah.
do. Can you share with us?
I'd love to. So I have pretty big visions, right? And as a company, we are going through, massive transformation
Mm,
regarding from our on-prem to cloud. And we really want to make sure that we're taking our customers with us so that they can take in a cloud environment and really keep up with
mhm,
all technology and innovations that we're doing because companies do innovation on the cloud and then companies can adapt it. So my vision is really to be the number one supply chain company in the cloud, bar none. And we're looking for year over year growth of a fairly significant organization of 50 plus percent year over year growth. Absolutely. Right.
okay. So I'm wowing because of the size of your organization. I work at a lot of organizations that are 40 to 50% growth, well, hyper growth.
50%
Awesome.
growth,
But
what SAP wants in the cloud products year over year next year is the growth targets, which is pretty significant. Now, where is that going to come from? So first of all, the supply chain at SAP, we define it from design to operate. That's how do you design your products? How do you do all the planning and scheduling? How you manufacture? How do you operate it? Right? And how you do all the logistics. That's what we call design to operate. Those are
mhm,
supply chain products. In conjunction with that, you also have our network solutions that work with it, logistics business network. And then, of course, the exciting part which we haven't even chatted about, is this concept of artificial intelligence, which is a game changer for supply chain. So my goal is really to grow the organization to that size, but more importantly, in doing that, the goal is actually to work with our customers to transform their supply chain.
mm,
The growth will come from that, but the
yeah.
real thing, what we're trying to do, if you know about SAP, is help the world be a better place to run through technology. A key
Right.
part of
Yeah.
that via their supply chains and in the transformation that they go through, and the growth will come. Because SAP is in a very unique position with our
Mhm,
installed base of our ERP customers that we have so aligned with our supply chain capabilities, which are native to that, puts us in an enviable position with how you need to have,
absolutely.
yeah, right, be more connected, be more responsive, and all that is how we would be able to get that significant growth, even given the size of where we are today to grow it. So
Yeah.
that's the plan.
Exciting times. Terrific. Well, let's pull on the AI thread here. I did want to ask you about what you see as sort of emerging trends in your industry, and maybe AI is the place to start there.
Sure. That is a big trend. In fact, in a recent study we did with Oxford Economics, clearly
Mhm,
state that the majority of supply chain practitioners in this survey surveyed over 1,000 across the globe, 10 countries, 18 different industries. Clearly, supply chain practitioners must embrace intelligent technologies like AI in order to do their job. Problem is too big, too complex, too global not to do so. So the whole concept of AI has been recognized, it's needed in supply chain. But let's start with the foundation that AI has been around for a long time, right? Since the 60s. SAP within their supply chain products has embedded AI. So you'll see it throughout our applications
mhm,
in demand planning and algorithms. You'll see it in warehouse slaughtering. You'll see it in all the SAP solutions, particularly in supply chain. And they're used very heavily, machine learning and such. The new trend is, what do you do with natural language AI,
mm,
generative AI, right? Because we've had
mm,
AI for a while, and it's been used quite successfully. That is where we will, to me, will totally change the way a supply chain practitioner will interact with the system. So, and we recently did announce the Copilot, which is a
Mhm.
natural language AI called Joule with SAP that will be having come out with different aspects of the SAP solution. What that means is you will be able to ask a question. Why is my West region not performing? And it will get back to you not only with the answer, but recommendations of what to do. And because it's in the SAP set of applications and data, it is relevant, reliable, and responsible. And
Mm.
that is a huge change, that will actually allow us to get out at scale and get it out of being just a sandbox. The power of SAP,
Mhm.
the fact that it's embedded, gives us this capability to really kind of change the game in a big way. So we view by the year 2025, we will have be the absolute largest AI embedded out at scale of any other company. Thus, you see where my plans are for my growth.
Yes.
2025 is when AI will really be a huge for all SAP customers in an active way. And that, and I said before, we're doing it that it's relevant, it's reliable, and it's responsive.
Mm. Yeah. I I would add, I think it's also, and this is an add, not a but, it's the accessibility that I mean that natural language brings, right? We don't have to wait to hear back from, what's happening with the business intelligence people as much as just being able to ask the question and get a good enough answer maybe for what's going on. And that's just going to get better and better over time. And certainly by 2025, we would expect it to be sort of
Yes.
just the natural, normal flow of things when you have a technology partner such as an SAP who's focused on it.
You hit it, Karen. So instead of going through a bunch of dashboards and a bunch of spreadsheets, which is currently the way,
Yeah,
folks do it. Dashboards are great, but it's a dashboard and it doesn't, you have to go through further analysis. And
right.
what natural language AI, it will be able to do that. In an SAP world, it's doing it with your data,
Yeah,
understanding your processes to give you an accurate answer. That's kind of the combination that we have: your data, understanding your business processes, and being able
yeah,
to understand that throughout, because SAP has all the best practices. That's where it'll really be useful. And that's what
yeah.
the experiment is all about.
Terrific. Well, what an exciting time in, I'd say, in technology and the world in general, but with such a big, complex field to play in, as is global supply chain, that you have this sort of this new tool to help manage it. I'd like to shift and talk a little bit about you and your leadership, because I know it's something that I'm interested in, but also this group of people who are listening. One of the things I've heard over and over again from C-suite that I've spoken with is the role of curiosity has been a big one in their leadership styles, and I wonder what role curiosity might have played in your path to leadership.
Ah, yes, curiosity is key. Creativity is key. And I do think one of my biggest strengths is, and I will share with you because everybody knows that I am dyslexic
Ah,
and I use that different brain thinking,
mm,
curious to be different thinking, to be creative, to look at things differently. And it has really helped that I do look at things differently. And when I look for talent, you have to have the basics. But for my leadership skill, what I really use is the concept that I think creativity
mm,
can be a number one strength of folks in how you look strategically at things, how you do problem solving,
mm.
how you handle tough problems really is an advantage. So that and curiosity in questioning things, I think go hand in hand. I think go hand.
Absolutely. Yeah. So how do you hire for creativity? I'm curious. How do you hire for creativity?
You have to give a person a problem set and
Mm,
see how they look at it. You also, when you see the way they present themselves, in the way they ask questions, do you know what I'm saying? You
mhm,
see if they're just going the standard template, or so there are certain questions you can tell if they're curious, if they're creative, and added into it. So it is really a very important component. Now in the supply chain, when you look for supply chain talent, what actually becomes the thing that you look for is analytical, quantitative, right? And can do
mhm,
attitude, because supply chain people are can do people. How do you figure out a problem? And then how do you solve a problem in the context of, quite frankly, the limitations of technology, right?
mhm.
Because you have to be able to solve it. So supply chain has some other things that are also associated with that make good supply chain people.
Yeah, terrific. All right. Well, anyone who wants to work for Darcy and her organization, now you have the key to know what's required. Darcy, I have one,
Collaboration,
pardon? Oh,
collaboration. That's
collaboration. Yeah.
Yeah, we found that women studies have shown from McKinsey as well as Gartner studies that women tend to do very well in supply chain because they're very collaborative in establishing partnerships and working in teams and such. So even though
Mhm,
it's interesting, we have a diversity issue in supply chain with women, the studies show that actually women thrive in the supply chain arena because of those characteristics, which is
mm,
interesting.
mm. Since you brought that up, you've started or founded an organization called Women in Supply Chain. Do you want to talk about that a bit?
I would love to talk about my passion. Yes, within SAP, we take diversity very important, and we do keep track, and are rated by the diversity we have. My organization had very low diversity, and I was challenged with how are you going to improve that? And saying, well, there's not very many women in the field was not an excuse they really accepted, right? And
Oh,
so it was kind of self preserving that I said, well, I have to fix this. And to fix it, you have to start at the beginning of the funnel. So
right.
I formed Women in Supply Chain. It's actually empowering women in supply chain network. And what it is, it's SAP employees, SAP customers, and SAP partners
Mm,
all coming together. The only thing is you have to have an interest in promoting women in supply chain, all levels. And now we even have some university people, and it's a group that's grown. And what we do, we help get them interested in the field, then we mentor, coach, and sponsor them throughout their career. We do this through quarterly virtual Zoom meetings where we have a keynote speaker. The one coming up in end of October happens to be Lindsay Vaughn, who's going to talk about resiliency and coming back. She, if you don't
great.
know, alpine skier, a
Skier.
lot of degrees,
Yeah.
right? And then we have a panel of supply chain leaders that kind of take that theme and use it to help people. We do on site too once a year in Orlando at our user conference, and
Mhm,
it's been phenomenal and is spread. And women find it very helpful in sharing, learning about others' careers. My diversity for in North America really improved from low 20s to mid 30s. The leadership level we were up to 40. Now
mm,
what we're doing is, with my global role, we're expanding that just from being North America centric, and now we're working with the other global regions to do the same thing. Quite frankly, some of the global regions outside of the US and Canada have a bigger diversity issue than we had here in North
mm.
America. So we're pretty excited about being able to expand this globally. And I will say it's been so rewarding for me personally, because I'm at the point in my career where it's time to give back, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's giving back, but now we have all these fabulous early talent folks that we have that we're getting into the industry. But what's important is to keep them. We contend as an industry to lose them middle. We want to make sure we're getting them in, we're keeping them in, and we're getting them to the highest levels of the organizations, which is exciting.
Yeah. So much of life is funnel management. It's just not something I realized until later in my career. So
Exactly.
good for you. That's great. All right. My last question for you, Darcy. My consulting business, my tagline is up and to the right because that's the spot on the 2x2 matrix where we always want to be. And I wonder if there was a moment in your career when you knew that you'd be successful, sort of a moment when you knew you were moving up and to the right.
Well, I will share this. So when I came out of university, most people do not grow up and say, when I grow up, I want to be a salesperson. Most people do nothing. Doctor, lawyer, whatever, engineer. I was recruited, and early on, I was recruited to work for Hewlett Packard, right?
Mm.
And it was when I was doing a very difficult sale with a large global company that I had to navigate all sorts of things. And it was after that one large sale, and I will tell you, it was probably 5 years into my career
Mhm.
that I finally looked in the mirror and I said, I am a salesperson. I can sell. I will always be able to sell, and I
Yeah.
will always be employed because I can sell. And that was the first time. I mean, I was like, HP called us field engineers and all these euphemisms.
Mhm.
We were
All right.
salespeople. Okay, we were salespeople. But I couldn't get over saying that until all of a sudden I was like, wow, I am good at this. I know how to do this. And I will always be. And that was my first in that I would be in successful in sales. And then of course the next trajectory was when I went into sales management
Yeah.
and leadership was another. But the first one where I was like was really pretty early on where I said, I know how to sell. And then I migrated into sales leadership. And
Mhm.
that point was when I was at really, it was a small startup, which is the whole area where I built and scaled small company was
Mm.
called New Metrics, which then I knew I could lead a sales organization, right? Lead a team, build a company that I knew I had the ability to rinse, lather, repeat. And then I did
Yeah.
that several
Yeah.
times over until I eventually ended up at SAP. So that's kind of
Yeah.
my up into the right
Yeah.
comment.
Terrific. You had confidence in your talent. Awesome. Thank you so much, Darcy. I really appreciate you sharing all these thoughts with us and wish you and your team all the best for this large growth cycle in front of you. Thanks.
Karen, thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
Yeah. Take good care.